What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a couple updates for you. Actually, we have a roster move to let you know about, and then just some more updates on obviously the status of everything, because it's coming in quick now, right? So we actually should expect quite a bit of news coming out of the NFL and the Dolphins going forward, not just related to, the ongoing battles between the NFL and the NFLPA or the players, whatever, but also, there should be roster moves and stuff like that made because, now that camp is officially starting to get underway, right? All the rookies should have reported, the quarterbacks and the injured players should have reported at this point. 4 more days, and all of so that's Tuesday. All of the rest of the team, the veterans, will report. So on the 28th, everybody will be there. Camps will be fully underway. And there's still tons of things, financials, the whatever and stuff that are not settled. But we should be getting a ton of news because one thing that they did settle on is that camp will instead have from 90 players down to 80. So, that's one way in which... So, look, I agree that there could be some ways in which... trimming the roster sizes could be useful, helpful. One, obviously, there's less bodies and less people to possibly get infected or bring it into the buildings, etc. But if it comes in, those 10 people, having that 10 people is not going to make that big of a difference, right? 80 people, still a lot of people, including staff members, etc., coaches, whatever. And, that's not going to be that big of a difference from 90. The 10 players isn't going to make that huge of a thing. However, that's 10 players from every team, so 320 players per team that are going to be fired because of it. So they are no longer going to be receiving, checks from, and there's almost no chance that they're even going to make it onto other teams. Maybe, if some teams dip below 80 and then maybe, pick up some other guys, but there's probably not even going to be a ton of poaching because these are the most back end guys for all the rosters, and all of the teams, their top 80 guys are, probably there to stay for a reason. So, whether it be from, the team last year or draft picks or what have you. Anyway, so let's get right into this news though, because there was a roster move by the Dolphins. If I'm not mistaken, they were at 87, I believe it was, prior to this move. I believe this will drop them down to 86. So they officially have waived defensive tackle Ray Lima. He was an undrafted rookie from Iowa State. I obviously don't know much about him, but defensive line is obviously one of the biggest areas of concern on the team. So that being the first position they decide to attack with cuts, I don't know that I'm, particularly excited about that. However, again, it's just one of the fringe roster guys, so it probably ultimately will not make a difference. Although it depends. I mean, I'm not sold on Christian Wilkins yet. I love Devon Godshaw, but then the rest of the guys, I mean, let's see, real quick, let's note that Barry Jackson tweeted this out. Dolphins still expected to have 3 to 5 rookie defensive linemen on the team. Raekwon Davis, again, I mean, he seems all right. Weaver and Strourbridge, those guys are automatic, he notes, obviously because they were draft picks this year. I'm not super sold on any of them. They all have some intriguing things about them and some upside, but they all have some pretty significant downsides too. So all of them could be hit or miss. So we'll have to wait and see. Tyshun Render, the guy Belichick worked out, blah, 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 personally has a decent chance, and Benito Jones will also compete. So, I mean, those guys, and then Christian Wilkins, Devon Godshaw is the only one personally that I, really like. Other than that, our defensive line's not particularly impressive right now, at least from my perspective and what I can see on paper. Although, our defensive front is going to be a hybrid, and so, linebackers are going to be mixed in there a lot and doing a lot of the pass rushing theoretically. So we'll have to just wait and see how it all comes together. And again, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to this, I've said the same thing. It's time for them to prove it. They have to show that the choices that they have made are the right ones. I personally believe that they are not. I think that they could have prioritized last draft and this draft totally different and way better. Same thing with last offseason and this offseason. I don't think that, I don't think they did it right, And look, everybody hates on me because I like the way that Adam Gase did things here. And look, to be fair, apparently Jamal Adams is saying that he doesn't think he's the guy there. But also, to be fair, Jamal Adams could just be, for lack of a better way of saying it, being a baby. But I don't know. Maybe he does have legit issues with Adam Gase. However, Adam Gase inherited a lot of that bullshit, and it was none of his fault, but he still gets the blame for it. But maybe he does. I don't know. But just to be fair, apparently, Jamal Adams, doesn't really think he's the guy, although Jamal Adams is also probably likely on his way out. So that's also important context. I think he's going to do well there, but regardless, the point is I think that he had the Dolphins on the right track and they didn't need to do the mass exodus and all that shit. So I would have done things way, way differently. But regardless, to this point, the facts that we have that are in are pretty definitive so far. Like a lot of the moves that they made, not this offseason, but the last offseason, were trash and did not work out. A lot of those, gems, hidden gems that they were hoping for, and practice squad guys and backups and so on and so forth that they were going to hope to fucking coax the best out of, didn't work, right? And their player evaluation to this point has not been very good. And their first draft is, to as nice as I can be, is underwhelming to say the least, right? So, and I think that they have, some common threads in their drafting. I think that they're overreaching for guys, and I think they tend to take a lot of guys that have pretty significant injury histories, including their franchise quarterback, etc., etc. So I have a lot of concerns, but that's okay because they can prove me wrong. And if they prove me wrong, I will change because the facts will bear that out. I don't see that happening, especially with the way that this year is going and the way that I figure it to eventually get shut down, because then, the development of these guys is going to be severely stunted. And then I just think it's going to create even more problems. And, I think in a couple years from now, we're going to see Brian Flores get scapegoated by Stephen Ross, and he's going to get fired. Probably Chris Greer too. They'll get scapegoated. But Stephen Ross won't go anywhere, even though he's the heart of the problem. He's the root of the problem. And then we'll just be in the same boat that we were 2 years ago now. And so, but we'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the next part, though, with the updates. So there's this report from Yahoo Sports. As talks get contentious, NFL team owners open to all options in next 72 hours, including halting training camp. The labor talks between the NFL and the Players Union are creeping into combative territory. Coming off Wednesday's negotiations, when NFL team owners pressed for a resolution of shared revenue loss prior to the training camp's opening Tuesday, the rhetoric between the two sides escalated Thursday. A source with knowledge of the negotiations told Yahoo Sports that franchise owners have expressed a willingness to consider all options if talks break down over revenue drawbacks. The source said options for team owners ranged from closing the doors to training camp prior to veterans arriving for the Tuesday start, instituting a deadline during camps that would trigger a close down if a deal hasn't been reached, or instituting a deadline that would halt the start of the season in the event of an impasse on any of the financial points of an agreement. Okay, let's pause right there for a half a second. So in case you guys didn't get that, what's being said there is essentially the NFL is going to throw a temper tantrum and have a hissy fit and say, if you do not bend to our will and take these kind of financial pay cuts and, you know, what have you that we want, if you don't suffer and take the brunt of this, so that way we take the least amount of responsibility, the least amount of financial ramifications, etc., then we're just going to shut it down. Which is funny because, I mean, ultimately that's the right thing to do. So if they do have some sort of little fit like that and they ultimately shut down, then okay, I'm kind of cool with it in the sense that then people's lives won't be, you know, risked by bringing them together because of the virus. On the other hand, they won't be paying these guys, right? So it's all about their money, and they just don't like giving anything. Like I said, even the concessions they gave, okay, so we'll do testing through the first 2 weeks of training camp every day. But then if we stay below 5% infection rate, then we're going to go to every other day. But then they also, the NFLPA board and whatever says, you know, they put out, their first numbers were 72 players. Then they say 95. We're up to 95. Then they're like, oh, wait. No. Sorry. We're actually changing that and dropping it significantly to 59. And then their excuse was, oh, well, that includes staff and any non-player person who tested positive, and we're not counting that. Why? Why aren't you counting that? Especially considering that 5% threshold that you're supposed to stay below to then change the testing to every other day is supposed to include staff, etc., etc. Well, the only reason is so they can manipulate the numbers, so that way they can do whatever is necessary to keep it below that 5%. So the optics and the perception is that it's not as bad as it really is, so they can keep the thing going. Now, of course, they have to hammer out these financials and to keep things going too. But I mean, it's just a giant mess. As I've told you, the things that I've been saying are coming to reality and coming to fruition, as I've said. Anyway, let's get through the rest of this. Excuse me. Players' salaries at heart of issue. The core issue over the finances, which is now the most pressing concern for club owners, is how players will share in revenue losses from 2020 and whether they will take salary adjustments if a season is abbreviated by COVID-19 complications. All right, before I finish, I just want to say, for like the 1 millionth time, the players shouldn't have to take any financial losses at all. At all. Not a single one of them. Sure, some of them make millions, but the majority of them don't, right? Practice squad players don't make anywhere near that. Fringe guys don't make anywhere near that. Even rookie contracts are pretty small comparatively, right? But regardless of all of that, the players obviously take far more risk, right? On a normal basis, they take far more risk because they can sustain normal injuries. But then they have to take the COVID risk on top of that. So do the fans, etc., right? And the coaches. So they have to take far more risk. But even beyond that, the NFL still has, and the owners still have far more resources. They have unlimited resources. So if they really did give a shit about player safety, health, you know, fans, etc., they wouldn't force this issue so they can continue to make massive profits and then dump all the responsibility and shit onto everybody else. No, if they really gave a shit, they would, first of all, if they cared to have the season go on as normal, they would make sure that they did not just half measures, but very strict full measures, which I still think is impossible to maintain. But then they wouldn't be doing all this other shady shit, like saying that the players need to take the fucking brunt of the financial ramifications. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that proves that you don't really give a shit, that the only thing that you care about is your fucking money. Anyway, let's get through the rest of this. A league source told Yahoo Sports on Thursday that the union is continuing to take the stance that players should be paid in full once the season begins and contracts are officially guaranteed. They should be paid in full regardless. Because I'm telling you, the season is going to come to an end prematurely one way or the other. It's going to happen. Hear me now, quote me later. And there's a likelihood that could happen even before the season starts, which means that they won't play any games. By their contracts, if they don't play any games, they don't get paid. So, and of course, the NFL and the owners, obviously, as we've seen, will always try and find some way, scapegoat through or loophole through not paying these guys if the season were to get shut down. So, I mean, it's all fucking bullshit, and the players just period should not have to take any of this hit whatsoever. The league source added that some team owners have expressed that the season should not begin until players agree to salary adjustments in the event of a stoppage or trimming of the season. I mean, look how fucking childish and pouty that is. Like, that's ridiculous. If you do not accept our judgment and that, and are forced to take, the majority of the ramifications here to minimize or negate our impact, otherwise, like, they're threatening them in two ways, right? Like, it's a lose-lose situation for the players, etc. It's just gross. Sources also told Yahoo Sports on Wednesday that there is a belief that if the NFL season began without an agreement addressing salary adjustments and a stoppage, team owners could decline to continue paying players if a stoppage occurred and then litigate the matter in court. Of course they would. Whatever path franchise owner, that's what I'm telling you. Whatever path franchise owners choose, it has become increasingly clear that the next 72 hours will be key for both sides. While the NFLPA has urged patience for players and told them that the clock is ultimately going to work in their favor as the opening of camps draws near, club owners have ratcheted up demands on getting a completed deal by the end of the weekend. That pressure increased exponentially after the league agreed to meet the NFLPA's demands of canceling the preseason and ramping up COVID-19 testing at a significant cost. Weekend talks will be critical. The two sides are expected to continue negotiating through the weekend in hopes of avoiding a cratering of talks, most of which have been fruitful over the past 2 weeks. Not really. That's bullshit, by the way. Again, the concessions are middling at best that they've been given. I mean, again, because even the 2 weeks, it's super limited, and they are fixing the numbers to make sure that they can go back to how they want it. So they're not even going to have the fucking, it's a pipe dream, not to anyway, whatever, dude. It's a joke. The rhetoric triggered a response from NFLPA executive George Atala, who tweeted Thursday afternoon, "Let me get this straight. When players wanted to wait until safety protocols finished to come in, management set reporting dates before that was all done. Now that the coronavirus protocols are done, they leak a threat to shut down because they don't have players' money." Absolutely. And that was an amazing, because it's all games to them, and it's all about the money to them. People need to understand that the people in power in this country and the world do not give a fuck about you. They don't care about you, especially if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Latino, if you're a woman, if you're anything other than a rich white male in this country. Rich is the most important thing, right? And powerful. Those are the two most important things. If you're rich and powerful, you can do anything you want. If you're rich, powerful, white male, you can absolutely do anything you want. And then you just, with each one of those layers of privilege you drop off, then you get fucked more and more. So it's absolutely right. The NFLPA's player representatives for each team are scheduled to have a conference call Friday to discuss the latest in talks, including potential outcomes if an impasse carries into the Tuesday start date for full training camps. So there you have it. I've been telling y'all this for weeks and weeks and months and all of this shit. Nobody listens, but I'm continuing to be proven right. The NFL and the owners are greedy, racist pieces of shit that only care about their money and don't give a fuck about the players, the coaching staffs, the fans. All they want is to make sure that we all have all of the responsibility when it comes to the virus, and that we have to take all of the financial ramifications, mostly obviously the players and taking pay cuts and so on and so forth, but then they drain us of our money. I mean, the fans too, they want us to pack into stadiums so they can continue to rake in billions of dollars, even if it hurts our pockets, because, our unemployment's running out, or more people are losing their jobs, or, you know, they get sick or whatever and they can't afford shit. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I hope you appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.